Specifically the one that is seen in the individual in the black and white jacket.
Correct.
New footage just dropped, and it's flipping the entire YNW Melly case upside down. This ain't just another update. This footage got people rethinking everything they thought they knew about that tragic night. What really went down before those murders that shook the whole game? Because from the looks of it, things weren't as clean-cut as Melly's team wanted folks to believe. Now here's where it gets crazy. Melly and Bortland got caught on camera, and the streets are buzzing that this footage might change everything. The prosecution been waiting for this moment, stacking up receipts that got Melly's defense scrambling. After Bortland's plea deal hit, the trap been talking heavy, breaking down every little piece of evidence the state been hiding. And when you lay it all out, it's clear why Melly's legal team been looking like they fighting for air out here. The feds didn't just pull up with talk. They came loaded with 7 pieces of hard evidence meant to bury that drive-by story once and for all. Each piece points to one thing.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Jamel.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Henry, I'm not quite sure how your lawyers managed to do this, but I wish you good luck, sir.
That Melly was right there in that back seat, and not just riding along, but allegedly holding the strap when it all went down. The wildest part? It all starts with that surveillance video from New Era Recording Studios. The same clip that's now being used to break the case wide open. That footage shows Melly, Bortlen, Sack Chaser, and Juvie leaving the studio together around 4:09 a.m. on October 26, 2018. But it ain't just the timing. It's the details that got the prosecution hyped. During trial, the victim's mother had to sit there and painfully identify her child on that footage. And the moment left the whole courtroom silent. The clip allegedly shows Melly sliding into the left rear seat.
My determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting. Shooter's at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in.
The exact spot where ballistic experts said them fatal shots came from. That alone tore a hole right through the defense's story. The defense had been pushing the angle that Melly wasn't even in the whip when the shots popped off. But this footage got his lawyers looking tense, like the whole plan just collapsed. Investigators said they couldn't find any signs that shots came from outside the ride. No bullet holes on the passenger side. Nothing that screams drive-by. Even worse for Melly, that driver's side window busted outward, meaning shots came from inside the car, not into it. That's a tough look. Then came the testimony that really rocked the room. Crime scene expert Sergeant Christopher Williams laid it out. 8 shell casings found inside the vehicle from 2 different weapons, a .40 cal and a .45.
It was enough time for the heart to stop beating, for there to be no circulation due to the wounds that I examined from the medical examiner's office. None of the wounds have any blood in them, which tells me that they're all ante-mortem wounds.
This is the actual crime scene on US 27 Pembroke Road.
And approximately where along Pembroke Road on this map were those casings discovered? Specifically the one that is seen in the individual in the black and white jacket.
Correct.
Did Mr. Henry have possession of either of those satchels or man purses at the hospital?
No, ma'am.
The angle of those shots told one clear story. They came from where Melly was sitting, not from any outside shooters. That forensic detail had the courtroom frozen in disbelief. And when Williams broke down the timing of the wounds, things got even darker. He explained that by the time the fake drive-by was staged, both victims were already gone. That means this wasn't chaos, it was planned out. The prosecution painted it as cold, calculated, and deliberate. Something straight out of a nightmare. But here's the kicker. Melly's DNA was found all over that left rear door handle, locking him in at the exact position tied to those shots. The defense tried to argue it just proved he'd been in the car earlier. But when you stack that DNA next to the footage, the dots start connecting real fast. It's a dangerous puzzle that seems to be forming a single picture.
You guys are so criminal-minded and caught up into this street culture where black people aren't even smart anymore. They think everybody dumb.
And Melly's right in the middle of it. The defense tried to fight back with one argument. No gunshot residue was found on Melly's hands. They said that proved he didn't shoot nobody. But the prosecution fired back saying that test happened way too late, and residue could have easily faded by then. So that argument didn't hit like they hoped. And then the digital trail came into play. Detectives traced Melly's phone, pinging right near the exact spot where the murders happened. The same area he claimed he wasn't at. Detective Mark Moretti walked the jury through those location logs, step by step, showing just how close Melly's phone really was. That evidence alone got everybody whispering in the courtroom. But it didn't stop there. Prosecutors brought up an Instagram DM that made jaws drop. In that message, Melly allegedly wrote, "Shh, I did that," when someone asked about the murders. If that's legit, that's basically a digital confession, plain and simple. No cap, that message had the prosecution acting like they just hit the jackpot. And then came one last twist: the missing murder weapons. Detective Polo testified that both Melly and Bortlen were seen carrying bags when they left the studio with the victims. But when Bortlen pulled up to the hospital with them bodies, those bags had vanished into thin air. Like they never existed. That detail had everyone asking questions.
This is huge. And this is one of the biggest nightmares that any prosecutor could face, where you're getting taken off the case and now being called as a witness in said case.
Where did those bags go? And what was inside them? This whole situation's messy, intense, and nothing like what the defense wanted people to believe. Every new piece of evidence just pulls the story deeper into darkness. And as it stands now, the case against YNW Melly is looking more tangled than ever. Legal experts believe those missing bags could have been holding the murder weapons, the ones that ain't never been found. That's some organized, straight-up strategic type of cleanup right there. It's giving serious cover-up energy. The prosecution worked overtime trying to prove why Melly would ever allegedly take out his own people. Gang expert Danny Polo testified that Melly had ties with the Sin Bloods. And according to him, taking out Sack Chaser and Juvie could have boosted Melly's street rank and even brought him more financial power in the set. That right there painted a motive that had the courtroom buzzing. The text messages between the crew showed just how deep the tension had gotten before the tragedy. Sack Chaser was getting mad, saying Melly was getting all the shine while he was doing the real grind behind the curtain. That jealousy over fame and money? It's destroyed more brotherhoods than bullets ever could. Things started heating up even worse when Sack Chaser began beefing with Melly's mom over business moves in the hood.
I hope they get his kid life. I hope he never gets out of prison. Yeah. He killed his friends.
That's where the line got crossed. When family gets dragged into street money talk, that's when everything turns deadly real fast. The prosecution's theory is that after Melly allegedly took out his boys inside the whip, he and Bortland drove to another spot and fired rounds into the SUV from outside to fake a drive-by. But that's where the forensic team shut that story down hard. Blood splatter, bullet paths. None of it matched what you'd see in an actual drive-by. There were no bullet holes on the right side of the vehicle, where drive-by shots usually hit. The math just wasn't mathing. Then the hospital footage added even more fuel. Cameras caught Bortland switching clothes like he was trying to ditch evidence, and hospital staff said he kept flipping his story about what happened. That behavior made prosecutors go, "Hold up. Why all the switching and stuttering?" And what made it even more suspicious was that Melly didn't even show up to the hospital. For someone who claimed these were his day ones, his brothers.
That YNW Bortlen is not going to be a flipper, and he is not going to be the cheese eater I previously said that he could become. And he is going to give a statement. I don't know what that statement's going to be, but his attorney is an excellent attorney. He's one of my good friends and you know, really helped me out as a young attorney. Fred Haddad, a great guy. And he represented very, very few, if any, flippers in the past.
Where was he when they were fighting for their lives? If you really love your people, wouldn't you be there praying they make it through? That absence hit fans and jurors differently. Now here's where the case took a wild turn. Prosecutors tried to use Melly's own lyrics against him. They claimed tracks like "Murder on My Mind" revealed his mindset, even trying to bring over 100 songs into evidence. The defense called that move outrageous, saying music ain't murder. Whether those lyrics can be used in court is still being battled in the appeals court, and it's sparking a national debate about art versus evidence. There's also a promotional video prosecutors want to show, arguing it ties to his state of mind. But even that's stuck in appeal limbo. The legal world's still trying to decide if creative expression can ever be used to prove guilt.
So theoretically, Phillips said, Bortland could now be called as a witness in Melly's upcoming trial. He could testify for Melly or against Melly. But my guess is if he's agreeing to do a proffer, he's going to snitch. I expect that to be the case, Phillips said. If they subpoena him, he can no longer take the Fifth Amendment on these issues. At the end of the day, Mr. Henry knows what happened. He was in the car, but he wasn't the shooter. And so finally, after all these years, for him to plead no contest, even though he was adjudicated guilty and accepted responsibility for this, in part, was favorable.
Despite all the heat, Melly's lawyer's been fighting back hard. They keep saying the prosecution's story is built on assumptions, sloppy police work, and wild theories. They point to the missing guns, the lack of gunshot residue on Melly's hands, and even possible police misconduct. Detective Mark Moretti, one of the lead investigators, admitted under oath that he threatened witnesses with deportation and jail time to make them talk. That revelation threw a cloud of doubt over every piece of witness testimony. If folks were scared into speaking, how solid is their story, really? But then came Bortland's plea deal, and that changed everything. In that deal, Bortland admitted the murders happened inside the vehicle and that he helped cover it up afterward. That completely wrecked the original drive-by defense. Melly's legal team couldn't use that storyline anymore. It's dead in the water. Now they gotta convince the jury that Melly didn't pull the trigger, which is a whole different uphill climb when every piece of evidence seems to be circling back to him. The street's been watching since 2018, waiting for justice, waiting for truth.
So the freeforms to me look like the 19th case as to the 2 counts of accessory after the fact, as well as to all 4 counts. The 23 case. These are going to be adjudication, 10 years Florida State prison, followed by, that's a 6 years probation.
And this latest evidence dump is exactly why prosecutors believe they finally got their case locked in. But here's the truth. Evidence and conviction ain't the same thing. Getting a jury to say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a case this twisted is a whole different fight. And that's where Melly's defense decided to pull their final card. Their most desperate play yet to save his life. As the retrial approached, Melly's legal camp was in a straight nightmare. With Bortland confirming that everything went down inside the car, the defense had to completely rebuild their strategy from scratch. What came next exposed cracks in both teams. Prosecution and defense, showing how messy this case really got behind the scenes. From day one, Melly's legal strategy caused drama all across the hip-hop world. During the 2023 trial, defense attorney David Howard came out swinging. But instead of protecting both men, he pointed fingers straight at Bortland. He told the jury that all the inconsistencies came from Bortland's lies. He said he lies about where it happened. He lies about how it happened. And he lies about not having the phone.
So here's what happens. He goes and he testifies, or talks to the prosecutor in a proffer. His lawyer's there, the agents on the case are there, the prosecutor's there. They ask him whatever they want, right? And nothing he says can be held against him in that proffer. Nothing. And this is what they call a snitch session.
That move had people online calling it snitching on your own co-defendant. Fans, bloggers, and even other artists couldn't believe the defense threw Bortland under the bus like that. Social media exploded with takes like, YNW Melly and his team just blamed everything on Bortland. People started saying both sides told on each other in court. A wild twist for a crew that once claimed brotherhood. And now, as this retrial looms closer, the world's watching to see whether the jury believes Melly's defense, or the mountain of evidence stacked against him. When Melly's lawyers stepped up for opening statements, they went all in, turning the courtroom into a showdown. The defense wasted no time throwing serious heat toward YNW Bortlen, basically painting him as the real trigger man. The streets were stunned, whispering, "Ain't no way Bortland don't turn state after that." It was bold, risky, and messy, the kind of legal move that gets everybody talking. Attorney David Howard built the entire defense around one central argument, that Melly was being framed for someone else's actions. He told the jury that Bortland tested positive for gunshot residue, while Melly didn't have a single trace. To them, that was proof that Bortland was the shooter who fired them deadly rounds, not Melly. Howard hammered that point hard, painting his client as an innocent artist caught up in a web of lies and jealousy. The defense only brought one witness to the stand, Melly's close friend, Adrian A.D. Davis. He claimed Melly was asleep at home when the shots went off. Davis said he found out about the murders at the same time as Melly did, and that his boy was just chilling in shorts and a t-shirt when they heard the news. That statement was meant to plant doubt. Like, how could Melly have done it if he wasn't even out there? But the defense didn't stop there. They went after the cops next. They argued Detective Mark Moretti was obsessed with pinning this case on Melly because of his fame, clout, and reputation in the streets. They said the whole investigation was built on bias, ego, and weak evidence. And they didn't pull punches. They reminded the jury that Moretti himself admitted to threatening witnesses with deportation and jail time just to make them talk. That revelation had folks questioning everything about how the case was handled. But then came a bombshell that flipped the whole trial's energy.
No. His attorney said no, he will not testify. The only thing that's going to happen based on what his attorney said is he only got to answer a couple questions from the state, and then he got to go serve his time. And
Lead prosecutor Christine Bradley got removed from the case. The reason? She was accused of hiding key evidence from the defense. Word in the courtroom was that it involved a police witness who allegedly asked another cop to lie about being present during a search. That's not small time. That's serious misconduct. Legal analyst Melba Pearson broke it down, calling it a massive shakeup that could derail the prosecution's momentum. The defense jumped on that chance, arguing Bradley had to be taken off so they could call her as a witness and expose what they called dirty tactics behind the scenes. Her removal left prosecutors scrambling, with new faces having to learn over 5 years of complex case details before the retrial. That delay gave the defense just enough time to rebuild, even though their own house wasn't exactly stable either. By August 2025, Melly fired his entire legal team while prosecutors were investigating claims of witness tampering. His new squad, Carrie Hua and Drew Findling, inherited a case that was way deeper and darker than when it started. According to reports, Melly blamed the lawyer's switch on outside interference, though the full story behind it stayed murky. The whole situation had fans saying the case looked more like a soap opera than a murder trial. But the biggest blow for the defense came when Bortland was officially no longer a co-defendant. That move stripped Melly's team of a major advantage. Attorney Bradford Cohen broke it down, saying without Bortland in the courtroom, Melly's lawyers couldn't shift blame or cross-compare statements the same way. It forced them to stand on their own story, one that was getting shakier by the day. Still, not everyone in the legal world agreed that Bortland's cooperation spelled doom for Melly.
I look like taking the deal that hurt my... I look like giving about how y'all feel. I'm a young fly. Be back to raising hell, prevail.
Some thought it could backfire if Bortland came off untrustworthy or self-serving, but attorney Bruce Rivers wasn't one of them. He said, "Something real's about to go down," predicting a major shift was coming. And he was right, because this case wasn't just a legal fight anymore. It was turning into a full-blown cultural moment in hip-hop history. Meanwhile, the families of Anthony Williams, aka Juvie, and Christopher Thomas Jr., aka Sack Chaser, been waiting nearly 7 years for closure. Attorney John M. Phillips, representing Sack Chaser's family, has been managing both the criminal and civil sides of this ordeal. He explained that with Bortland's plea deal, things opened up big time, because now Bortland can't plead the Fifth in civil court. That means he'll have to answer questions under oath. And those answers could finally reveal what really went down that night in October 2018. This civil angle added even more tension to a case already full of twists. It wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about truth, loyalty, and how far folks will go to protect their image. This whole thing cracked open major questions inside hip-hop about brotherhood, betrayal, and the cost of fame. Even Charleston White jumped in, calling out how fans often defend rappers no matter what evidence is out there. He said people get blinded by celebrity and stop seeing the victims, and his take hit a nerve across the culture. Through all the chaos, one thing stayed the same: the evidence. That surveillance clip still shows Melly getting into that left rear seat. The ballistic tests still don't match any drive-by setup. The phone data still puts his device right near the crime scene. Nothing about those details changed. Only the narrative around them did. With Bortland's plea confirming that the murders happened inside the vehicle, the defense can't use that drive-by theory no more. They can't claim no crime happened, and they can't hide behind confusion. When your own brother-in-arms flips on you, that's when things get deadly serious. And that's exactly what went down here. September 9th, 2025. Mark that date. That's when everything changed. One of the most watched cases in modern hip-hop took another wild turn when YNW Bortlen took a plea deal that had the entire hood in shock. Inside Broward County Courthouse, Judge Michael Usan even said he couldn't believe how good of a deal Bortland's lawyers managed to pull off. This wasn't no regular plea deal either. We're talking about a man who was originally facing life in prison or worse for 2 first-degree murders, but somehow, someway, he walked out with just 10 years behind bars and 6 more on probation. The courtroom gasped, and outside the streets started buzzing louder than ever. Because if Bortland's deal came with cooperation, then YNW Melly's next move might be the most dangerous one yet. Now that's what you call finessing the system on a whole new level. For years, both YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen stood tall, acting like their innocence was unshakable. They moved like brothers against the world, silent, confident, and defiant. Melly's first trial back in 2023 ended in a hung jury, with 9 jurors saying not guilty, and 3 holding out for guilty.
When pleading to an accessory to murder after the fact, you have to acknowledge that the murder happened and you assisted someone or in some way to cover the murder. Now, if Melly's statement is, how do we know there was a murder? And then secondly, how do we know who did the murder? Because they said it was a drive-by.
That deadlock gave his team hope. They thought they could rebuild and come back stronger for the retrial, which was set for January 2027. But then came September 9th, 2025, the day that flipped everything upside down. When that courtroom opened, the energy was different. Quiet, heavy, and awkward. Only around 8 people showed up to support Bortland. No big entourage, no flashy lawyers, no industry figures. Just Melly's mom and little brother sitting there looking drained. No sign of a 100K track, and none of the victims' families from juvie or sack chasers' side. The vibe was straight abandoned energy. You could feel it in the air, like everyone knew this wasn't ending how they imagined. The deal Bortland took sounded simple on paper, but it was deadly in what it implied. He pled guilty to accessory after the fact and witness tampering, and in return, they dropped those heavy murder charges that could have had him locked up for life. That's a huge trade-off. And when something like that happens in a double murder case, it raises every eyebrow in the building. But here's where it got real spicy. The plea deal came with what they call a proffer agreement. That's legal talk for, you gotta sit down and tell us what you know. Basically, the feds wanted Bortland to spill some tea behind closed doors. Legal expert Bruce Rivers broke it down for the people. A proffer can mean limited cooperation, but it always means one thing. You're talking. And once that word hit the streets, everyone started asking the same question. Is Bortland about to snitch on Melly? Attorney John M. Phillips, representing one of the victims' families, said this could be the piece prosecutors were missing. That final puzzle piece to bury Melly's defense. But Bortland's own lawyer, Fred Haddad, wasn't having none of that snitch talk. He went on record saying, "I don't represent snitches," and swore that his client wasn't turning on Melly. According to him, the proffer would be limited. No courtroom testimony, no direct statements against his co-defendant. Still, the hood didn't buy it. The confusion got wild. Some folks said it was straight betrayal. Others said it was just smart survival. Playing chess, not checkers. Reporter Seti Nash, who was actually inside the courtroom, came through with receipts saying the cooperation was minimal and wouldn't immediately endanger Melly.
That is important, and you know, this is a homicide case, this is a high stakes case. You want to ensure that there is integrity in the prosecution of this case because this family does deserve justice, and there isn't a person that deserves to be wrongfully convicted or in prison for something that they didn't do.
But that contradicted all the rumors online claiming Bortland had gone full informant. The internet was split, some saying Bortland folded, others saying he finessed it like a boss. The timing, though? That's what made everyone suspicious. The trial was literally about to start. 250 jurors already lined up, the courthouse prepped, the state spending racks to get ready. Then out of nowhere, Bortland flips the script at the last second. To a lot of people, it looked like either his lawyers panicked or the prosecutors offered him a deal too sweet to refuse. And then came the freestyle. The day after his sentencing, Bortland hit the jail phone and dropped a verse that set the internet on fire. In that freestyle, he made it clear he wasn't turning on his people. He rapped like a man trying to hold on to his pride, basically saying, "Yeah, I took a deal, but I didn't fold on my boy." It was his way of speaking to the streets, telling them he did what he had to do to survive a broken system, not to sell out the brother he came up with. That freestyle went viral in hours, and everyone had an opinion. Was it real loyalty or damage control? Within days, Bortland got shipped off to state prison. First thing they did? Shaved off his dreads, took away his chain, and handed him that standard orange jumpsuit. From rising rap star to inmate number. That's a cold transition. It's the kind of moment that humbles you fast, no matter how loud the fame once was. From the spotlight to state property, it hits different when that door slams shut behind you. Meanwhile, DJ Academics was online breaking it all down for the culture, giving a take that had the hip-hop world thinking twice. He pointed out what many folks missed. Even if Bortland never snitches directly, his plea deal itself already changes the game. By admitting the murders happened inside the vehicle and that he helped clean up afterward, the prosecution doesn't need his words. They already got what they wanted on paper. That admission crushes the original drive-by defense that Melly's team had been holding on to since day one. Academics said it best. You don't have to testify to flip the story. The paperwork speaks louder than words. And that's exactly what happened here. The hood was divided, arguing what this meant for Melly's fate. Some said loyalty don't exist once that gavel drops. Others said Bortland just played the game smart to save his own life. In a culture where snitching is seen as the ultimate betrayal, this move split fans right down the middle. On one side, people calling Bortland a sellout. On the other, saying he just did what anyone would do if facing life or death. Either way, one thing's for sure. September 9th, 2025 changed everything. What once looked like a united front between Melly and Bortland turned into one of the most dramatic legal plot twists hip-hop's ever seen. And from that day forward, nothing about the YNW case would ever be the same again. The streets couldn't stop debating. Was Bortland breaking the street code, or just doing what he had to do to survive? Everybody had an opinion. Some said he folded under pressure. Others claimed he was being strategic, playing the system instead of letting it play him. But one person who didn't hold back, not even for a second, was Charleston White. His take cut deep, sparking all kinds of arguments across social media and barbershops everywhere. Charleston came in swinging, saying flat out, he killed his friends, and that no amount of fame, music, or money could excuse that if it turned out to be true. His stance hit like a gut punch. He represented that hardline part of the community that believes loyalty ends where murder begins. His message was simple. If you take out your own, there's no coming back from that, period. Some folks praised his honesty, while others called him cold-hearted. But one thing's for sure. He got people facing some uncomfortable truths about what street loyalty really means. Bortland's plea deal marked a massive turning point, a whole new chapter in a case that's been captivating hip-hop fans since 2018. With him no longer sitting next to Melly as a co-defendant, and possibly giving prosecutors some level of cooperation, Melly's legal team found themselves in a whole new fight. The game had changed, and the stakes were higher than ever. Now Melly's retrial was officially pushed to January 2027, after being delayed by ongoing appeals over what evidence can actually be used in court. The appeals court still gotta decide whether prosecutors can bring in all that tech data, messages, cell pings, and even alleged gang-related digital evidence to argue Melly's motives and mindset. That's a dangerous gray area, and both sides know one wrong ruling could flip the entire case. These delays created a mess for everybody. The new prosecutors had to go through thousands of pages of old testimony, photos, ballistic reports, and phone records, while Melly's new defense team had to rebuild their entire game plan from scratch after Bortland's plea deal. They're walking into this retrial with less time, less leverage, and a mountain of new challenges. But no matter how many lawyers or motions get shuffled around, the stakes in this case haven't changed one bit. YNW Melly still faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, and if found guilty, he could face the death penalty. And under Florida's newly modified law, it only takes 8 jurors to vote for execution, not a full unanimous decision. That new rule sent chills down the spine of everyone following the case, because it means 1 or 2 sympathetic jurors might not be enough to save his life. And that's where this story stops being just a legal saga and turns into something much deeper. A question about justice, morality, and truth in the streets. For the families of Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr., justice means accountability for whoever ended their sons' lives. They've waited nearly 7 years to see someone held responsible. But for Melly's supporters, justice means protecting an innocent man from being punished for a crime they believe he didn't commit. And for the wider hip-hop community, this case is about more than guilt or innocence. It's about fairness. Legal expert Safa Robinson-Farah said it best. This isn't just about what happened in that car. It's about whether our system can handle fame, race, and celebrity without bias. She emphasized that a verdict built on emotion instead of evidence would destroy public trust. The retrial has to be clean, solid, and fair, because too many lives already got shattered over this. At the end of the day, 2 young men lost their lives on October 26, 2018. 2 families lost their sons. Bortland's already paying the price, spending years behind bars for helping cover it all up. And Melly? He's still fighting for his freedom and possibly his life. The weight of that night still hangs over everyone connected to the case, from lawyers and judges to fans and family members. The 2027 retrial won't look anything like the first one back in 2023. Different prosecutors, different defense attorneys, and a whole new legal landscape. But the heart of it remains the same. The same haunting questions echo louder than ever. What really happened inside that car on that October night? Who truly pulled the trigger that took 2 young lives? And can the justice system finally bring closure without letting power, fame, or bias twist the truth? The answers are coming, but the world's gotta wait till January 2027, when YNW Melly finally stands before the court once again. Whatever happens in that courtroom won't just decide one man's fate. It'll rewrite how the streets, the system, and the culture define loyalty, justice, and truth.